Welcome to Blueprint Spawnable Component. In this video, we're going to find out how to make our barrel class actually available as a custom component. You'll find that right now it isn't, but tank barrel will become available using a new annotation. And then on that tank barrel, we are going to set some parameters, max degrees per second, how fast it can move, and how high and how low it can move, so that the barrel doesn't collide with the tank as we move it up and down. So see you in there. So I know there seem to be a lot of hurdles to getting this tank barrel working, but they're wonderfully informative hurdles. We've got another big one for you in this video. So we want to just add a private property here, and that is an edit anywhere, so that we can edit some properties of the barrel. Let's just make the variable. It's just going to be called float, the first one for the moment, max degrees per second. Putting a sensible default in equals 20, and I'll just label that as a sensible default as that's what it is. Okay, so anyway, we have made ourselves a U property. We would like to be able to set a default degrees per second when a designer puts a new barrel in the game. They can obviously modify that, but where are they going to edit it? Well, let's compile our code and then have a think about where you'd see it. It's not going to be on the tank barrel FBX because that is a static mesh. Where it's going to be is inside the tank blueprint. We have a barrel, but this barrel is not the one. In fact, our very blueprint's not compiling right now. Look, we get a warning. And the warning, if we try and compile, is it's having the same problem with tank barrels and static meshes rather. This set tank barrel reference method now wants an actual tank barrel, whereas what we've got here is a static mesh. We got it from over here, and it's a static mesh component. So the question comes, how do we swap this guy out from being a static mesh component, barrel, to being an actual class-based thing? Well, that's an interesting question. If we try and add a component, look, let's go down to the custom section. What have we got? The only thing we've got at the moment that we've created is tank aiming. We have not got our tank barrel. So if we look at our classes over in the content outliner, C++, battle tank, we have tank aiming component there, is available because it's a component, but tank barrel is also a component. It's a static mesh component rather than an actor component, but it is not by default available to this blueprint. We can't add it. So our mission here is to make sure that tank barrel appears in the custom section here near tank aiming. So how do we do that? Well, let's go look at the tank aiming component. And you see, by the way, you notice how Unreal in the list under custom here in the blueprint, it's taken away the word component, which is pretty cool. And it's also picked up this forward declaration comment. So let's go look at the code for the tank aiming component. It's picked up forward declaration here because it's the first thing before the class. So what I'm going to do is just move forward declaration here. And I can make use of the fact that I know that it's now going to read this comment here to just introduce the class. So we can say holds parameters for barrels, holds barrels properties basically. And elevate method. Maybe that's too specific because this will go out of date, but what I want to show you is that if we compile that the comment will come across here when we get to custom. Under tank aiming, it says hot reloaded, so maybe that's just saying that you need to reload it down again. Hold barrels properties and elevate method. Okay, so you've learned a couple of things there as an aside, which is that you want to put your annotation that's going to come in the hover over right here. But look, what we're really interested in is that the tank aiming component has this annotation in front of it. Let's compare that to tank barrel. Has uClass nothing. This guy has uClass and then class group custom meta equals BlueprintSpawnableComponent. Now that's interesting. So let's take that stuff and stick it in the front of the tank barrel. In fact, let's get rid of the class group equals custom for the moment and see if it works with just uClass BlueprintSpawnableComponent. What I'm hoping is going to happen when we compile this is it's then going to allow us to actually add a tank barrel type here under our custom components. It may pop into this list when the compile finishes. It may moan about hot reload. Let's see when this list is populated. Here you go, tank barrel. we now have a tank barrel available. Let's add it. Put it where the other barrel is. Name it. Well, actually, I'll leave it for the moment. Misspelt is fine as long as I can differentiate the two. Let's go pick a static mesh. Compare it to the other barrel for a minute. Just flick back and forth. Okay, that's cool. The only thing that's different, look, is tank barrel max degrees per second. So rather than tank barrel being the category, we probably want that to be something like setup. And what's happened is that this annotation has allowed us to add it to the blueprint. So let's delete the old barrel now. Just remove the component. Get this one named properly. Fantastic. Now, that's named right. Now we can bring in a reference to what is now, if we hover over it, a actual tank barrel type. Bring that into barrel to set and compile, and we should be getting on much better. Let me just recompile all the code, because that way our barrel, when we go into it, will have, instead of it saying tank barrel, it's section down here. By adding in the code this category called setup, this will move into a setup section, which is now here. Setup max degrees per second there with that sensible default. Isn't that cool? So that is where we're going to be able to put our details. Now, you might ask yourself, do you want a designer to be able to actually change things like physics properties and collision properties on this? Well, you can hide these properties if you want to on the barrel. So for example, say we want to hide collision properties. This is how you do it. Right up here where we said meta equals blueprint spawnable component, we can say another keyword that I'm going to show you, which is hide categories equals, and then you give that in brackets, so we're going to need two closed brackets, a string, which is collision there, which is the name of this category. Now let's try recompiling and see what happens to the collision category. So what we're going to do here is strip down anything that having available in the blueprint could make the designer break the interaction. So I'm just using collision as an example for now, and you see that now we still have under barrel setup, but we don't have collision anymore. That's pretty cool, right? So you can customize like that by hiding categories. So there's loads of details there about how Blueprint Spawnable Component works. What I want to do to finish this video is to just get the rest of these U properties laid out, and I want you to do that. It's going to be a really simple challenge for you. So I want you to add the remaining properties. Add a maximum and a minimum elevation in degrees, as well as the maximum degrees per second that we've already got sitting there. Give sensible defaults in C++. Check and see how high and low the barrel can go, especially when facing backwards without hitting the tank. And then, as I said, prevent self-collision and make sure that all those properties also come through to the blueprint. So go ahead, add the remaining properties we're going to need for the barrel now, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, welcome back. So let's just copy this guy. I'm going to get rid of the word sensible default. It was just a suggestion for you guys. Okay, I'm going to get a couple of these down now. So we need a max elevation degrees is what I'm going to call mine. And I don't know how many that needs to be yet. So I shall say 0 and 0. I'll find out in Blueprint, and then I'll come and set it over here in the C++. So I'm going to set these sensible defaults, and then we have min elevation degrees here as well. I don't really know what those max and min are going to be. In fact, I can probably find out pretty easily by just going to the tank viewport. So the reason the barrel's on the floor is the parent socket needs to be set to the barrel socket on the turret, and the location of the barrel needs to be reset. Great, so now the barrel's in the right place again. Let's have a look at some sensible defaults. I'm going to rotate it around 180 degrees, or 170, 180 is better. Oh no, not that. Not the barrel rotated 180 degrees, of course, but the turret. How silly of me. So how low can you go, Mr. Barrel? Well, you can go to 0. You're not going to be able to go any lower than 0. You're going to hit the back of the tank. And if you were facing forward, again, I'm rotating the wrong thing. Make sure you rotate the turret here in the viewport of the blueprint. Grab the barrel. Now let's see how high it can go without looking stupid. Maybe 40 degrees at a real push. So I'm going to say between 0 and 40 degrees as my sensible defaults. Now the designer can tweak those further, but that's where I'm just going to start with. So let's go put that in the C++. Max elevation, 40. min elevation 0, I can get rid of those to-dos. You say, why do I bother with the to-dos? Just because I was going to move away from the code, I want to make sure I don't forget to do that. If you ever think I mustn't forget to, do something about it right there and then put a to-do in. Don't leave a I must do hanging around, because you won't do what you must do, I'm pretty sure. Okay, let's compile away and take a look at the tank blueprint here, and this barrel component. What we're hoping is that under the setup section we'll get 2 new parameters come in, and then we are done for this video. It disappeared off the screen, but there you go. Max degrees per second, max elevation, min elevation in degrees, all very clear. Let's compile a blueprint. That worked. I'm going to save everything here and close. I'm going to close Visual Studio just to be sure. And then I am going to make a commit over here in the source control using the name of the current video, which is the way that I always do it. But I'll leave that off screen because that'll bore you. So see you soon.